Hey everyone, my name is Mike. I need some guidance. My wife, Hannah, and I have been married for 7 years now. We used to be the ideal duo, always having a great time and always supporting each other. But lately, something has felt off. She's been distant, getting snippy over small things, and spending more time on her phone than with me. At first, I thought it was just stress from work, but now I am starting to doubt that. This entire mess began when she started hanging out frequently with her half-brother, Nathan. They'd claim they were just catching up or dealing with family stuff together. Every time I inquired about why they were spending so much time together, she would get all defensive. Nathan and I are just family, Mike, she'd say, rolling her eyes like it was no big deal. Initially, I did not pay too much attention to it, but then I noticed she was becoming increasingly secretive about where she was going. She'd come home late, carrying a faint scent of cologne that definitely was not mine. When I mentioned it, she would snap at me, accusing me of being overly suspicious. That's when I started noticing little things, like how she would quickly turn off her phone or delete messages whenever I walked into the room. Something was wrong, and I could not shake the feeling that there was more going on than she was letting on. Has anyone else gone through something similar? How did you handle it? I'm really struggling here. The situation with Hannah and Nathan became even more troubling as time went by. It was not only the secrecy, it was the way Hannah treated me. Her attitude had changed dramatically. She got irritated with me more often, made sarcastic remarks, and seemed indifferent to my feelings. This behavior was unlike her. The woman I had married was kind, loving, and supportive. Now, she appeared cold and distant, as if our marriage meant nothing to her anymore. I tried talking to her several times, but every conversation ended in an argument. She would accuse me of being paranoid and controlling. I told her I just wanted us to spend more quality time together, but she dismissed my concerns. We do not have enough time for each other because you are always working, she said one evening, her tone filled with resentment. Her words stung deeply. I worked hard to provide for our family, but now it seemed like my efforts were meaningless. I started feeling insecure, wondering if I was doing something wrong. Maybe I was not paying enough attention to her needs. Perhaps I had become too focused on my career. These thoughts haunted me, making it difficult to concentrate on anything else. One night, after another heated argument, I decided to take a closer look at her phone. I knew it was wrong, but I could not ignore the nagging feeling that something was seriously wrong. As I scrolled through her messages, my heart sank. There were texts between her and Nathan that went beyond casual conversations. They were flirting, sharing suggestive photos, and making plans to meet up for sex. My world crumbled around me. How could she betray me like this? I sat down, trying to process everything. Hannah's betrayal felt like a punch to the gut. I had trusted her completely, and now that trust was shattered. I wondered how long this had been happening. Had she been lying to me for months? Years? The thought of her sneaking around behind my back made me feel sick. Despite the evidence, I still clung to a tiny bit of hope. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. I decided to confront her the next day, hoping she would give me a reasonable answer. But deep down, I knew the truth. The lies, the secrecy, the late-night meetings, they all pointed to one thing: infidelity. One evening, I decided to surprise Hannah by coming home earlier than usual. We had not spent much quality time together lately, and I thought a nice dinner might help us reconnect. When I walked in, the house was eerily quiet. No sign of her car in the driveway, no lights on inside. I figured she might be out shopping or running errands, but something felt off. As I wandered through the living room, a small detail caught my eye: a crumpled receipt from a local restaurant. It was a place we used to visit often as a couple, but we had not been there in months. Curious, I picked it up and examined it closely. The date on the receipt was just a few hours ago, and the items listed were clearly meant for 2 people. My heart began to race. Where had she gone? And why had she not told me anything about going out? I tried calling her, but she did not answer. Her phone went straight to voicemail. That's when I decided to do something I never imagined I would need to, track her location using the Find My Friends app we shared. Opening the app, I saw her last known location. It was not far from where we lived, but it definitely was not somewhere she would typically go alone. With a mix of anxiety and dread, I drove over to the address. As I pulled up, I spotted her standing outside a quaint cafe, chatting and laughing with someone. My stomach churned as I recognized the man she was talking to. It was Nathan, her half-brother. They were too engrossed in their conversation to notice me. I parked the car and cautiously approached them, trying to keep my cool. But the closer I got, the more snippets of their conversation became audible, flirtatious remarks, inside jokes, and then, unmistakable hints of something deeper. "Hannah, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. She jumped, clearly startled. "Mike! What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I said, glaring at Nathan. He looked equally surprised and uncomfortable. "This is Nathan," Hannah said quickly, stepping away from him. "He's just my half-brother." "A half-brother who you are hanging out with all the time?" I shot back, my anger simmering beneath the surface. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, I did not know it would come to this." "I swear, save it," I interrupted, turning back to Hannah. "How long has this been going on?" Her eyes darted around nervously. "It is not what you think, Mike. Nathan and I are just family. We have been hanging out sometimes, but it is nothing serious. Family does not give each other rides late at night and meet up at cafes," I said, my voice rising. "And they certainly do not exchange messages like these." I pulled out my phone and showed her screenshots I had taken earlier, flirty texts, suggestive photos, and plans to meet up for sex. Her face paled, and for a moment, she looked genuinely shocked. But then her expression hardened. "You went through my phone? You had no right." "No right? You are cheating on me, Hannah. How can you say I have no right?" I retorted, my frustration mounting. She crossed her arms defensively. "Maybe if you paid more attention to me instead of your job, I would not have needed to turn to someone else." Her words cut deep, igniting a fire inside me. "So, this is my fault? You are blaming me for your affair?" She shrugged, her tone cold and detached. "Maybe I am. Maybe you are not enough for me anymore. Did you ever think of that?" Before I could respond, Nathan excused himself and left, leaving us alone. I stood there, staring at Hannah, feeling utterly defeated. How could the woman I loved, the person I trusted with my heart, betray me like this? The drive home afterward was a blur of anger and disbelief. Every mile that passed only intensified the rage building inside me. How could Hannah have lied to me for months, pretending everything was fine when it clearly was not? How could she betray me so callously, as if our marriage meant nothing to her? When I finally arrived home, I slammed the door behind me, pacing back and forth in the living room. I could not sit still, could not think straight. My mind raced with images of Hannah and Nathan together, laughing, flirting, having sex. The betrayal gnawed at me, making it impossible to find peace. I grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the cabinet and poured myself a glass, hoping the alcohol would numb the pain. But even as I drank, the images would not stop. They replayed over and over again in my mind, taunting me, reminding me of what I had lost. Hours passed, and eventually, Hannah came home. She walked in cautiously, clearly expecting another confrontation. "Mike," she called out softly, her voice tinged with fear. I ignored her, taking another long swig of whiskey. She approached me hesitantly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Can we talk?" "Talk?" I spat, turning to face her. "What is there to talk about, Hannah?" You cheated on me. You destroyed our marriage. What else is there to say? Her eyes filled with tears, but I did not care. She had brought this on herself. Please, Mike. I am sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Sorry does not cut it, I said coldly. You have been lying to me for months, sneaking around behind my back. And now you expect me to just forgive you? To forget everything that happened? She wiped away her tears, her expression hardening. I did not ask for your forgiveness, Mike. I just want us to try and work through this. Work through this? I repeated, incredulous. How can we work through something like this? You betrayed me. You broke my trust. There is no coming back from that. She crossed her arms, glaring at me. So, what, you are just going to give up? Walk away without even trying? I do not know what I am going to do, I admitted, my voice breaking. But I do know one thing, I cannot stay here, not right now. I need some space. Without waiting for her response, I grabbed my keys and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind me. I did not know where I was going, but I could not stay there another second. The drive was a blur, my mind racing with thoughts of everything we had shared and how it had all fallen apart. I pulled into a parking lot and sat in my car, trying to process what had just happened. How could Hannah betray me like this? How could she lie to my face for months and still act like it was no big deal? The anger boiled inside me, threatening to spill over. I felt like a shell of the man I used to be, wandering through life without purpose or direction. Days passed, and the initial shock gave way to a deep, aching sadness. I missed Hannah, despite everything. The house felt empty without her, and I found myself replaying memories of our happier times. But I knew that dwelling on the past would not help me move forward. Those memories were tainted now, reminders of the lies she had told and the trust she had shattered. Every laugh we shared, every moment of intimacy, seemed to have been built on a foundation of deceit. I struggled to separate the good memories from the bad, finding it difficult to remember the times when Hannah had truly loved me. I threw myself into work and therapy, trying to rebuild my life. My therapist encouraged me to express my feelings openly, reminding me that it was okay to grieve the loss of my marriage. Through our sessions, I slowly began to accept that what Hannah had done was not my fault. She had made her choices, and I needed to focus on healing from them. Each session brought new insights, helping me understand how deeply intertwined my identity had become with hers, and how I needed to reclaim my sense of self. The therapy sessions became a lifeline, giving me a safe space to vent and process the overwhelming emotions that consumed me. I started seeing progress in myself, learning to manage my anger and grief. The therapist taught me coping mechanisms, like breathing exercises and journaling, to help me navigate through the dark times. One evening, while browsing social media, I stumbled upon a post from Hannah. She had posted a picture of herself with Nathan, looking happy and carefree. The sight of them together reignited the anger inside me, but I forced myself to take a step back. Instead of reacting impulsively, I chose to focus on my own healing. Seeing them together like that was a slap in the face, but I knew getting worked up over it would not solve anything. The image of them laughing together was seared into my brain, a constant reminder of the betrayal. Yet, I tried to remind myself that I had to let go of these toxic thoughts and focus on moving forward. I deleted the post from my feed and blocked Hannah's account. It was a symbolic gesture, signaling my intent to leave the past behind. I reached out to a lawyer and started the process of filing for divorce. It was not easy, but I knew it was the right decision for both of us. As the legal proceedings progressed, I remained calm and collected, determined to handle everything with dignity and respect. This was about reclaiming my life, not dragging it further into chaos. The paperwork was tedious and emotionally draining, but I pushed through, knowing that this was a necessary step toward freedom. I worked closely with my lawyer, ensuring that every detail was addressed. We ensured that every asset was divided fairly, and custody arrangements, if applicable, were in my favor. The divorce process was challenging, but I refused to let it consume me. Instead, I focused on the future, on rebuilding my life piece by piece. During this time, I also made efforts to maintain a cordial relationship with Hannah. While our marriage was over, we still had mutual friends and responsibilities that required cooperation. By keeping communication civil and avoiding unnecessary conflicts, we managed to navigate the divorce process relatively smoothly. It was not perfect, but it was better than constant arguments and drama. Conversations with Hannah were tense and awkward, but we both knew that we had to keep things as peaceful as possible for everyone involved. We agreed to communicate through email or text messages, minimizing direct contact to avoid any potential flare-ups. It was a strategy that worked, allowing us to finalize the divorce without further complications. With the divorce finalized, I took some time to regroup and refocus on my newfound independence. I celebrated small milestones, like setting up a new home or landing a promotion at work. Each accomplishment reinforced my belief that I was on the right path. Slowly but surely, I started to feel more like myself again. Moving into my new place was bittersweet. It symbolized the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. I decorated the apartment with items that reminded me of happier times before the affair, hoping to create a space that felt like mine, free from the shadows of betrayal. I bought new furniture, hung up artwork, and arranged the space to reflect my personality. It was a therapeutic process, helping me transition into my new life. One evening, while attending a networking event, I met a woman named Sarah. We struck up a conversation, and before long, we discovered shared interests and values. Our connection felt natural and effortless, and we quickly developed a friendship that blossomed into something more. For the first time since Hannah's betrayal, I felt hopeful about the future. Sarah was different from Hannah in many ways. She was grounded, honest, and never made me feel like I was walking on eggshells. Her presence was a breath of fresh air, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I had not expected. Sarah listened attentively, offering empathy and understanding. She never judged me for my past, and instead, helped me see that I deserved a second chance at happiness. Dating Sarah brought a sense of joy and excitement back into my life. She was patient and understanding, never pushing me to move too quickly. Over time, I began to trust her, and our relationship grew stronger. Despite my fears and insecurities, Sarah's support helped me regain confidence and optimism. She gave me a reason to believe in love again, even though it was hard to let go of the past. Every date with Sarah felt like a step toward healing, a chance to rediscover what it meant to be truly loved and appreciated. We went on weekend trips, explored new restaurants, and spent countless hours talking about our dreams and aspirations. These simple moments brought me joy and reminded me that life was full of beautiful, unexpected surprises. But navigating a new relationship after such profound betrayal was not without its challenges. There were moments when the fear of being hurt again crept in, threatening to derail everything I had worked so hard to rebuild. During one particularly vulnerable moment, I opened up to Sarah about my fears. "I'm scared, Sarah," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. "What if I cannot trust anyone ever again? What if I ruin this, just like I did with Hannah?" Sarah reached out and took my hand, her eyes filled with compassion. "Mike, I understand your fears, but you cannot let them control you. Trust takes time, and healing is a journey. But I believe in you, and I believe in us. Together, we can face whatever comes our way." Her words gave me the strength to keep moving forward. With Sarah by my side, I learned to let go of the past and embrace the possibilities of the future. Our relationship continued to grow, and soon, we were talking about taking things to the next level, moving in together, planning vacations, and building a life that was ours alone. Despite the progress, there were still moments when memories of Hannah and Nathan resurfaced, stirring up old wounds. But instead of letting those thoughts consume me, I practiced the coping mechanisms I had learned in therapy. I reminded myself of the progress I had made and focused on the positive changes in my life. These memories would come unbidden, especially late at night when the world was quiet and my mind was restless. I would lie awake, thinking about all the moments I had missed, wondering how things could have spiraled so far out of control. But each morning, I woke up with renewed determination, vowing to leave the past behind and embrace the present. I started setting boundaries, prioritizing my well-being, and focusing on the positive aspects of my life. These changes helped me regain my sense of self-worth and confidence. As time passed, I began to notice subtle changes within myself. I became more self-aware, more attuned to my needs and desires. I started taking better care of my physical health, exercising regularly and eating healthier meals. I also rekindled old friendships and formed new connections, expanding my social circle beyond the confines of my marriage. These changes were gradual but significant. I started waking up earlier, feeling more energized and motivated. I joined a gym and started working out regularly, which helped me channel my negative emotions into something productive. I also attended various social gatherings, reconnecting with old friends and meeting new people. These interactions reminded me that life was full of possibilities, and that I did not have to be defined by the betrayal. I started hosting game nights, joining book clubs, and volunteering at local community centers. These activities brought me joy and a sense of belonging. Through it all, I remained committed to my personal growth and healing. I knew that rebuilding trust, whether in myself or others, would be a gradual process. But I also knew that it was possible. With patience, perseverance, and the support of those around me, I could emerge stronger and wiser from this experience. I set small goals for myself, things like going to therapy regularly, maintaining a workout routine, and reconnecting with friends. Each goal I achieved felt like a victory, proof that I was indeed capable of moving forward. And so, as I moved forward, I held on to the belief that brighter days lay ahead. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, I was ready to face whatever challenges and triumphs awaited me, knowing that I had the strength and resilience to overcome them all. I envisioned a future where I was happy and fulfilled, free from the shadows of betrayal and lies. It was a future I had once believed impossible, but now it felt within reach. Sarah's presence was a constant reminder that life was full of possibilities, and that I deserved a second chance at happiness. The final chapter of my journey arrived unexpectedly. A few months after the divorce, I received a frantic call from Nathan. "Mike, it's an emergency," he said, his voice trembling. "Hannah, she is in trouble. Financially, emotionally, she is falling apart. Can you help us?" I smirked, a mix of satisfaction and disbelief washing over me. "Help you? You're the ones who ruined everything. Now you deal with the mess you made." Without hesitation, I hung up the phone. They had chosen their path, and now they had to live with it. I turned my attention to Sarah, who had stood by me through all of this. Our bond had grown stronger, rooted in trust and understanding. She had never once questioned my decisions or doubted my ability to heal. Instead, she supported me, encouraging me to take things one day at a time. On the day of our move, I received a package. Inside was the wedding photo album I had left behind, along with a note from Hannah. "Mike, please forgive me. I miss you more than you know. I realize now what I lost, and I regret every choice I made." I stared at the album, feeling a pang of something I could not quite name. Then, I handed it to Sarah. "This is my past. It's time to leave it behind." Sarah nodded, understanding. "We're building a new future together. That's what matters." As we drove away from my old life, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. Relief, sadness, and finally, acceptance. I had faced the darkest parts of my life and come out the other side. I had learned that love isn't just about passion and romance, it's about being honest and open with each other. I also learned that sometimes, even when you give your all, it might not be enough. Relationships require effort from both sides, and when one person checks out, it's hard to recover. Reflecting on everything, I realized that I had ignored red flags and warning signs because I did not want to believe that anything was wrong. I had hoped that things would improve on their own, but that rarely happens without effort and communication. Moving forward, I vowed to be more mindful of my relationships and to address issues head-on instead of burying them. I promised myself that I would never let someone treat me with such disrespect again. Trust was something that needed to be earned, not given freely. To anyone going through something similar, I urge you to trust your instincts. Do not ignore red flags or warning signs. Talk to your partner openly and honestly. If things feel off, they probably are. Seek help from friends, family, or professionals. It's okay to ask for support during difficult times. Remember, your worth is not defined by your relationship status. Take care of yourself, focus on your own well-being, and do not be afraid to walk away if the situation becomes toxic. It is better to be alone and happy than to be in a relationship that makes you miserable. As we pulled into the driveway of our new home, a cozy house in the suburbs, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was my new reality, a life free from the shackles of betrayal and deceit. Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with warmth and understanding. "We've got this, Mike. Together, we'll build something beautiful." That evening, we sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, a reminder that even after the darkest days, there is always light. I turned to Sarah, my heart full of hope and determination. "Let's start fresh. Just us." Together, we walked into our new home, ready to embrace the future. Behind us, the ghosts of the past faded into obscurity. Ahead of us lay a life filled with promise, untainted by betrayal and lies. In the end, the story wasn't about forgiveness or reconciliation. It was about survival, about reclaiming my life from the wreckage they had left behind. And as I moved forward, I carried with me the knowledge that sometimes, the greatest revenge is living well. As they drifted off to sleep that night, Mike felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he knew one thing for sure: he was ready for whatever came next. With Sarah by his side, he had everything he needed to face the future head-on. He closed his eyes, feeling a deep connection with the woman who had helped him rebuild his life from the ground up. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, each passing moment bringing them closer together. Mike found himself settling into a rhythm that felt right. The initial excitement of their new life together had given way to a deep, abiding contentment. He and Sarah built a home filled with warmth, laughter, and mutual respect. Each morning, they woke up with a sense of purpose, grateful for the love they shared and the future they were crafting together. Mike continued to grow in ways he hadn't anticipated. His work flourished as he channeled his renewed energy and focus into his career. He took on new challenges, embraced opportunities for growth, and found fulfillment in the professional accomplishments that once seemed distant dreams. At home, he rediscovered hobbies and passions that had been long neglected during the turmoil of his previous marriage. Whether it was cooking elaborate meals, tending to a garden, or reading books that had collected dust on his shelves, Mike found joy in the little things again. Sarah, too, blossomed in this nurturing environment. She thrived in her own pursuits, finding balance between her personal ambitions and their shared life. Together, they supported each other's dreams, celebrating milestones both big and small. They traveled to places they had always dreamed of visiting, creating memories that would last a lifetime. These experiences strengthened their bond, reminding them daily why they had chosen each other. Yet, despite the progress and the happiness he had found, there were still moments when the past crept back into Mike's thoughts. It wasn't often, but occasionally, a stray memory or a fleeting reminder of Hannah would surface. Instead of letting these moments consume him, Mike now had the tools and perspective to handle them gracefully. He would acknowledge the feeling, sit with it for a moment, and then gently let it go. Therapy had taught him the importance of acceptance, accepting that the past was a part of his story, but not the entirety of who he was. One evening, as they sat by the fireplace in their cozy living room, Sarah turned to Mike with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I've been thinking about something," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of sincerity. "What's on your mind?" Mike asked, setting aside the book he had been reading. "I just want you to know how proud I am of you," she began, her eyes shining with admiration. "The journey you've been through, the strength you've shown, it's incredible. You didn't let the pain define you. You chose to rise above it, to build something beautiful out of the ashes." Mike felt a lump form in his throat. Her words touched him deeply, validating the hard work and introspection he had undertaken. "Thank you," he whispered, reaching for her hand. "I couldn't have done it without you. You gave me the courage to believe in myself again." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the crackling fire casting a warm glow around them. In that moment, Mike realized something profound. Healing wasn't about erasing the past or pretending it never happened. It was about integrating those experiences into his life in a way that allowed him to move forward with grace and resilience. He looked at Sarah, truly seeing her for the first time in this new light. She wasn't just his partner, she was his ally, his confidant, and his greatest supporter. Together, they had forged a bond that transcended the ordinary. They had created a sanctuary where love, trust, and understanding flourished. As they drifted off to sleep that night, Mike felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he knew one thing for sure: he was ready for whatever came next. With Sarah by his side, he had everything he needed to face the future head-on. He closed his eyes, feeling a deep connection with the woman who had helped him rebuild his life from the ground up. But the journey was far from over. One day, as they strolled through a bustling farmer's market, Mike felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around to see Nathan standing there, looking haggard and worn down. The man who had once been the source of so much pain now stood before him, vulnerable and desperate. "Mike, please," Nathan pleaded, his voice cracking. "I need your help. Hannah, she's lost everything. We made terrible mistakes, and now we're paying the price. Can you find it in your heart to forgive us?" Mike felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Part of him wanted to lash out, to remind Nathan of the betrayal and the pain they had caused. But another part of him, the part that had grown stronger and wiser through his journey, knew that forgiveness was not about absolving them of their wrongs. It was about freeing himself from the chains of resentment. Without a word, Mike simply nodded. He walked away, leaving Nathan standing there, realizing that true strength lay not in revenge, but in letting go. As he rejoined Sarah, she smiled at him, knowing that he had taken another step toward complete healing. The seasons changed, and with each passing day, Mike felt more rooted in his new reality. He and Sarah planned their future with excitement and anticipation. They talked about buying a house together, starting a family, and building a legacy that would stand the test of time. Their love grew deeper, more profound, and more resilient with every challenge they faced. And then, one crisp autumn evening, under the golden hues of a setting sun, Mike knelt down on one knee. Sarah gasped, her eyes filling with tears of joy as he pulled out a ring. "Sarah, my love, my rock, my everything," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. "Will you marry me? Will you continue this journey with me, hand in hand, heart to heart?" With tears streaming down her face, Sarah nodded eagerly. "Yes, Mike. 1,000 times, yes." The world seemed to pause for a moment, as if acknowledging the magnitude of this promise. Friends and family gathered around them, celebrating their love and the new chapter they were embarking upon. Laughter and cheers filled the air, a testament to the support and love that surrounded them. As they kissed, sealing their commitment, Mike felt a wave of emotions wash over him. Relief, gratitude, and finally, acceptance. He had faced the darkest parts of his life and come out the other side. He had learned that love isn't just about passion and romance, it's about being honest and open with each other. He also learned that sometimes, even when you give your all, it might not be enough. Relationships require effort from both sides, and when one person checks out, it's hard to recover. Reflecting on everything, Mike realized that he had ignored red flags and warning signs because he did not want to believe that anything was wrong. He had hoped that things would improve on their own, but that rarely happens without effort and communication. Moving forward, he vowed to be more mindful of his relationships and to address issues head-on instead of burying them. He promised himself that he would never let someone treat him with such disrespect again. Trust was something that needed to be earned, not given freely. To anyone going through something similar, Mike urged them to trust their instincts. Do not ignore red flags or warning signs. Talk to your partner openly and honestly. If things feel off, they probably are. Seek help from friends, family, or professionals. It's okay to ask for support during difficult times. Remember, your worth is not defined by your relationship status. Take care of yourself, focus on your own well-being, and do not be afraid to walk away if the situation becomes toxic. It is better to be alone and happy than to be in a relationship that makes you miserable. As they pulled into the driveway of their new home, a cozy house in the suburbs, Mike felt a sense of peace wash over him. This was his new reality, a life free from the shackles of betrayal and deceit. Sarah squeezed his hand, her eyes filled with warmth and understanding. We've got this, Mike. Together, we'll build something beautiful. That evening, they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, a reminder that even after the darkest days, there is always light. Mike turned to Sarah, his heart full of hope and determination. Let's start fresh. Just us. Together, they walked into their new home, ready to embrace the future. Behind them, the ghosts of the past faded into obscurity. Ahead of them lay a life filled with promise, untainted by betrayal and lies. In the end, the story wasn't about forgiveness or reconciliation. It was about survival, about reclaiming his life from the wreckage they had left behind. And as Mike moved forward, he carried with him the knowledge that sometimes, the greatest revenge is living well. Their love story became a beacon of hope for others, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always break. Mike and Sarah's journey was not just about overcoming adversity, it was about finding the strength within themselves to create a life filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. And as they embraced their future, hand in hand, they knew that together, they could conquer anything that came their way. The final chapter of his journey had begun, and this time, it was written in the language of love, resilience, and endless possibility. The world watched as their story unfolded, a testament to the power of the human spirit to heal, to grow, and to thrive. And in the end, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about finding peace within oneself, learning from the past, and building a future that honored the best parts of who they were. Together, Mike and Sarah stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them, stronger and more united than ever before. Their love was a lighthouse, guiding them through the storms of life, illuminating the path to a brighter tomorrow. And so, their story continued, not as a tale of vengeance or regret, but as a testament to the power of healing, self-discovery, and the enduring strength of love. Mike had reclaimed his life, not by dwelling on the past, but by embracing the present and looking toward the horizon with hope and optimism. In the end, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about finding peace within oneself, learning from the past, and building a future that honored the best parts of who he was. And with Sarah beside him, Mike knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger and more united than ever before. The final chapter of his journey had begun, and this time, it was written in the language of love, resilience, and endless possibility.